Welcome to the beloved community known as UU Amherst. I'm Marlana Rice, and I am part of the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee here, and I'm your service associate. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation committed to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, individually and as a community of faith. As our 16th century ancestor, Francis David, is purported to have claimed, we need not think alike to love alike. In a world that is increasingly polarized, we are an oasis of love and acceptance.
Our opening words this morning are from Unitarian Universalist minister Kathleen McTeague. These are our opening words, not only because they open our time of worship, but because they are meant to open us up, to open our hearts, our minds, to the very possibility that all are worthy, all finding our place in the family of things.
There is a war raging far from this place of comfort. We know it is there. We know our brothers and sisters suffer in poisonous touch. Our hearts are weighted with what we cannot resolve. So here we lift a banner in our own souls and remember that in this place, in this moment, we are not at war.
Breathe the truth of this moment. Here is our strength, our deep well of courage.
Breathing in, we rest our spirits. Breathing out, we pray for peace.
May those in harm's way be safe for another day. May those who drive the engines of power be awakened by compassion. May we all hold the cup filled with courage and will that has been carried by peacemakers in long ages before us. May we drink of it deeply and be steadfast in the ways of peace.
It is our custom when we gather to light a flaming chalice. The chalice is a cup or vessel that symbolizes the gathered community. The flame represents the spark that each of us brings to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, to bring more compassion and justice to the world. I invite everyone to join me in speaking our chalice lighting words as Rich offers the flame. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Each week as we light the chalice to symbolize the gathered community, we also acknowledge that our church is built on holy ground, ground that was first cultivated and occupied by the Haudenosaunee, and those known as the neutrals. We honor them as the original keepers of this land. We offer this libation as our giveaway, a symbol of our respect for the deep connection with the land. May we be good stewards of the land and courageously cultivate community with all living things. Together, we weave a tapestry of reverence and belonging. Our song of intention this morning is found in the gray hymnal, number 34, Though I May Speak with the Bravest Fire. Please remain seated as we sing.
Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire and have not love, my words are vain as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess, and striving so my love profess, but not begin by love within, the prophet soon turns strangely thin. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control. Our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are freed.
We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such a people, we make bold promises about how we will be together. Whether today is your first time or you've made UU Amherst your long-time home, you are invited to share in our sacred promise. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world.
Each week, we bear witness to one another's joy and pain, to make room in the circle and in our hearts for all that we bring. Up front here, there is a table with stones and shells surrounding a labyrinth. And you'll note that the table is round. It's meant to be a gathering place. And gathering sometimes looks like neat rows and queues and taking turns. And sometimes gathering is more like after a long afternoon of some good fun, and you can smell the deliciousness of what's happening on the grill, and finally someone rings the bell, and you come forward with great enthusiasm. I would invite you to find an in-between place with that, and to come forward and to place a stone or shell on the labyrinth in honor of all that you bring into this community today, knowing that you are held in love. So come forward as you will. Let's share a few breaths as we expand our circle of inclusion to bring in those who may not be present in body, but whose presence we feel in our lives. I will pause briefly after each statement so that you may speak the names aloud of those who are in your hearts. We bring into our circle of love and care those who are ill.
Andre and Furlough.
Those who are in pain, either in body or in spirit.
Sammy Dog.
Those who are lonely. Those who are overwhelmed and feeling lost. Those who have been wronged. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to love, and to care. May it ever be so in our lives. Amen and blessed be. We're going to sing together our song of meditation, Spirit of Life. If you wish, it's number 123 in the gray hymnal. And then a small curveball. After we sing it through once in English, we will sing it again in Spanish. True confession, how many of you have had at least 1 year, maybe in 7th grade, of Spanish or some related language? Sing with great gusto, my friends. We have people to bring along with us. The beauty of Spanish is that you say all the letters that you see, unlike some other languages. I'm looking at Marge, who used to teach French. And so, trusting in one another and in the spirit of life. Whoopsie. Please join me as we sing. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente del amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla volar, sube en la mar, gracia de la vida, arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. That was good, wasn't it? Yeah. That was that special request. I won't point out who or even look, but know that when you make special requests, sometimes the answer is, why not? We are a people of great courage and faith. Why not? And now, into a slightly more reverent, quiet place for our time for all ages. Dona eis requiem, give them rest. Dona eis requiem sempiternam, give them everlasting rest. A quiet reflecting pool, the American flag waving gently in the breeze, truly a perfect E.E. Cummings day, with the leaping greenly spirits of trees and the blue, true dream of sky. And acres upon acres of white marble crosses and stars of David in tidy military rows, preserving in death the belief that order must somehow triumph over chaos. And below, the pristine picture of undisturbed sands and calm blue sea, the beach. I went to the beach one summer. The beach I went to was still as the grave. No smell of coconut oil, no tanned and toned volleyball players, not a single sandcastle. This beach is the beach at Normandy, France, with the rhythm of the waves and the boundless horizon, and it is as hushed as any church. The beach below the cemetery at Normandy, where the Allies successfully invaded, though at terrible cost, where the Allies began to push back the Nazi presence in France on June 6, 1944. The beach, where thousands lost their lives, thrums with the holy essence of sacrifice and memory. The rocks, sand, and surf, they remember. These are some of the rocks and shells that I brought back from the beach at Normandy. I shared some with friends, loved ones, those that I knew would find it important that the souvenir I chose to bring back from my travels were rocks, were testaments that something happened there. And believe me when I say that the splendor and majesty of Notre Dame, where construction was begun in 1160 and finished in 1345, nearly 200 years in the building, that astounding edifice and testament to faith cannot come close to the sanctity of those rocks and of that beach. So let me tell you how I ended up there. For 6 days in the summer of 2014, I experienced a crash course in human history à la Française. I went with a group of singers to become part of a 500-voice chorus in Paris. The singers all came from the United States, a total of 19 festival choruses, church choirs, and selected high school choirs, and a few college ensembles. We descended upon Paris, ready to raise our voices together in honor of the human spirit. We sang Fauré's Requiem. I'm going to try to say this, just pretend I say it right. In l'Église de la Madeleine, the Church of Mary Magdalene, where that piece premiered in 1888. We traveled to Normandy, a 3-hour trip from Paris, and we traveled there on the 4th of July. The year 2014 marked the 70th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy. And although we were not there on the actual anniversary date, it felt significant to me to be there on the 4th of July. I knew that we were going to sing 3 pieces at the outdoor chapel: the Battle Hymn of the Republic, America the Beautiful, and the theme from the movie Saving Private Ryan. I had a notion that we would be singing for someone. And although there was no gathered audience, we were singing for someone. We were singing for ourselves and singing for those who had lived out the truth of the gospel, that no greater love hath any person than to lay down their life for a friend. We were singing to their memory and to the memories held in earth, rocks, air, and water. And so we gathered to sing, while family and friends and a few tourists gathered to witness. We sang together, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord," the tribute that the French paid to those whose presence literally brought the hope of salvation. Okay, so I've not been truthful with you. I wasn't singing. I was weeping. After Normandy, we continued to Caens, C-A-E-N-S, pronounce it any way you wish, where the official Memorial Museum and Education Center brings the grim reality of war to the front of our consciousness. With sights and sounds, the jeeps and tanks, the bunker and the personal paraphernalia of war. So young. They were so young. And so this Memorial Day weekend, we honor those who lived and those who died, serving various branches of our military. You know, it doesn't matter if the decision to serve was based in family tradition, economic need, conscription, or a longing to belong. The service is what matters. As I was reflecting on this, it occurred to me that when my dad, pictured here, wearing his USS, that was, I didn't mean to do that, the USS the Sullivan's hat where he served. Yes, please don't let it sink. So it occurred to me that whenever my dad would share his stories, they never, ever started with, "when I was in the Navy." They always began with, "when I was in the service." And that is an important distinction. As I was entering my senior year in college, suddenly panicked at the question of what was I going to do with a degree in theater, I nearly joined the Air Force. In fact, I had signed the papers. I had been given a date of when I was going to go. And then I was told 2 really important things. One was that although having a 4-year degree makes one eligible for officer training, a degree in theater does not count. Wait, what? And second, that my aptitude for languages meant I would be stationed in a missile silo in Nebraska interpreting messages, most likely from Russia. A missile silo. During the Cold War. A missile silo that you can bet had the Russian equivalent of X marks the spot written all over it. And so I backed out. It wasn't easy. And the recruiter said some really mean things. I did not join the Air Force. And I have always felt a little bit squeamish about that. Like I quit before I even got started. But with the path my life has taken in the 38 years since then, yeah, that's the right math, I see that it was the right decision for me. You see, I was only joining the Air Force. I wasn't going into the service. And the years that followed have been lived in service in other ways. And answering to the call to ministry is very much being in service. Nearly 9 years ago, I stood on the beach where countless young people gave their lives in service to a higher purpose. And I sensed that the holy was there. I sang a couple of notes, and then I wept for a long time in their sacred presence, and amid white marble graves, some with the nameless inscription, "Here lies a fallen comrade known only to God." And I know the sacred is there. I stood in the Cathedral of Notre Dame. I sang in the sacred beauty of La Madeleine. I stood on stone floors that have witnessed the hopes and tears and wars of humankind. And I know that the mystery, the meaning of life, was there too. The essence and presence that defies our limited power of understanding is here with us in this space. I know this because I know that there is a love holding me, that there is a love holding you, and that we rest in that love. Dona eis requiem. Grant them rest. I'm going to invite you to rise and body your spirit and sing with me. It's hymn number 318 in the gray hymnal. We would be one. Please rise.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater
seated. So I'm going to invite you to join me in creating an altar of remembrance. Whether you brought a photo or memento with you, or choose to add to the beauty of the altar with flower petals, shells, or stones, which I will bring up in just a moment, I invite all who wish to create sacred space as we honor those who have lived and died in service to something larger than ourselves. As we create the altar together, on the monitors, Judy Collins will be singing Sons of, which is a song by Jacques Brel. And please recall that the song was written at a time when only young men were part of all of the armed forces. And so expand in your heart to include all that you need to include as we come together. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to do something that might not be super comfortable. You ready? You always bring your hard hats and your seat belts. That's why I love you so much. I'm going to invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing one verse from each of the hymns representing the U.S. Armed Services. And so hold all of those who have served, those who have lost loved ones, friends. Just hold that big giant container of love in your heart. These hymns, and they are called hymns, are rowdy because they are meant to sort of rally the troops, quite literally. And so I anticipate that you can hold all of that. The solemnity and the rowdiness. I have seen you at work. I know how you whirl. So it starts with the U.S. Air Force, and I'm going to be bumbling along just like anybody. And I have the benefit of some sheet music up here. So let's rise and body your spirit and see what happens.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Adam, now give her the gun. Down we dive, spouting our flame from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in flame or go down in flame. Nothing will stop the Army Air Corps. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college shores, sail at break of day, 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 day. Through our last night on shore, drink to the foam. Until we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy voyage home. From the Tacoma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. Forced to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title as United States Marines. Here we go. Over hill, over dale, as we hit the dusty trail, and the army goes rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter march and right about, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's high, high, he in the field, artillery. Shout your numbers strong and strong, for where you will always know that the army goes rolling along. You may be seated. Nice. I can't say for certain, but that might very well have been the first time these anthems, these hymns celebrating the United States Armed Services have been sung within these walls. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not glorify war. I'd be willing to bet that we have some complicated feelings about country, flag, and patriotism, especially since those ideas have been co-opted by white Christian nationalists.
What I can tell you is that our 5th, 6th, and 7th principles clearly position us as people who are devoted to peacemaking and honoring our connections with all of life. We affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. We affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We affirm and promote respect for the inherent respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. At the core of each of these and all the rest of our principles is love. And sometimes love shows up in ways that are hard to define up close. But with some distance, some perspective, maybe some years, we can see the love shines through. Love loves through us. I'm going to send Marlana out with a microphone, just in case you have a story or a poem or a something that you would like to offer. And I think, Marlana, you'll start.
My father served this country with love. He was in the Army, and later on, and he got out of the Army, and then when Pearl Harbor happened, he joined the Army Air Corps. And he went over with 75 men. 3 of them survived. My father was shot down twice. He could never move his arm more than 9 degrees. And when people said, "Oh, you're a hero," he said, "No, they're only dead heroes. A hero is someone who sacrifices themselves for the good of others."
It's kind of a sad, happy story. My mother-in-law, Gladys, lived with my family. We had a 3-generation home for about 28 years. When she moved in, I was 32. We figured she might have 5 years. And when I turned 60, a few months after, she died. So we had this wonderful 3-generation household, and we got to know her. And her first love of her life was her husband, Frank, who died on D-Day. And it was a terrible, she explained what happened the year or 2 after that happened. It was terrible, it was just awful. But it was never-ending love for the rest of her life. A few years later, she met John, my wife's dad, great guy. He also lived with us. He was so wonderful. He was this fantastic man. He was a simple man, but he was there for her, for Gladys, for so many years. And he died 4 years after they moved in. But on her deathbed in 2014, it was really interesting. We were telling her, hey, you're going to see Frank, her first husband who died on D-Day, and a real crushing love till the last day. And John will be there. Because she was crying for Frank. And we said, Frank is going to be open arms and you're going to see him. And she's like, oh, I can't wait. And she's in this terrible pain this last few hours. And we said, and John will be there too. She said, who's John?
Marlana, over there, Charlie.
Hi. My dad, Tom Marquis, was a B-17 tail gunner stationed out of England in the 8th Air Force during the last days of World War II. And he was always, of course, incredibly proud of that, as we all were. But same as your dad, he never, whenever someone would say, oh, you're a hero, you did a great thing, he said, I was one of many, I am not a hero. And he kept that steadfastness. My dad, in addition to having an incredibly wicked sense of humor, was also a very steadfast, strong man. But as the years went on, he was very proud of his 8th Air Force service. And as he got older and we would go out to IHOP, which one of his favorite places, and he'd always be wearing his 8th Air Force cap. And 9 times out of 10, when I would go up to pay the bill, I would be told that it had already been paid by someone who had come by the table and thanked him for his service. So it carries on, but he never thought, he was like, why would people do that? I didn't do anything. And it was that, that belief that he held that he really hadn't done much of anything. But anyway, there you go.
My dad, Irena's Arthur Hoekstra, was colorblind, and he tried to join the Air Force in 1944, and he was denied acceptance because he was colorblind. And he was working in the Madison Water Department, and because of service to the city of Madison, keeping their water clean, he received a deferment so that he never was drafted. My mom, after she graduated from Madison, became an occupational therapist, and she worked with many of the soldiers who returned and had the shock of war. And as a result, she was a diehard person against war. My uncle served in the Navy.
My dad, William Bofinger, Bill Bofinger, quit high school to serve in the Navy. What year would that have been? The war was just starting, and at first they wouldn't take him. He had to be 17. He had to wait a little while. He served in the Mediterranean for the first part of the war, helping to get the merchant marines ships safely where they had to go. And then in the second part of the war, he was in the Pacific. And after my mom died, I had the privilege of going to Pearl Harbor with him on an elder hostel trip and seeing it through his eyes. He would call me, "Come on, Diane, you have to come and see this," and he'd show me everything. And he said when he came back through, I guess it was Waikiki Beach, it was just desolate. It wasn't built up like it is now. So it was really interesting to see it through his eyes.
My father and her great-grandfather served in the Army, and right around the time I was born, he was over there. She just found out that he had been in the Army, and he earned a Purple Heart and came home with shrapnel in his body and suffered after the war, but he was a good dad. She just found this out today.
So my Uncle Bud fought D-Day battle, became a paraplegic. When he returned home to Newburgh, New York, the city rallied around him, built a home for him that was ADA, what we would call ADA compatible, built a business for him within the home, a printing business, and provided with him transportation, adapted transportation at Cadillac for his entire life. He would get a new Cadillac that allowed him to be totally self-sufficient. This is what the city of, the people of the city of Newburgh did for him when he came home. Wow. It was just heartwarming. But I had two other uncles who also served in the war at that time, who came home intact.
My dad, Robert Clyde Anthony, was a marvelous man. Recently, I sold my home, and I found love letters from him when I was like 2 to 3, 4 years old. "Dear Margie, are you paying attention to your mommy and doing everything you want to do?" Tons and tons of notes that he did that for me. He was a sweet man. He worked for the post office when he got out. I just found something from Belgium where he was stationed also. And I'm sorry to say that mentally he was wounded, not physically, but he was a fabulous father for us all. So thank you for doing this today. It's very, very, very nice.
My father, Sergeant Isidore Seidel, was a 20-year veteran, actually I think 21. He joined the service when it was the Army before World War II and stayed in, and then it became the Air Force when he continued after the war. I think the war was the highlight of his life, and I grew up watching Victory at Sea, and lived on Air Force bases for 13 years of my life. I have an uncle who was 13 in Lithuania. And miraculously survived the Holocaust. He's 95, and he has spent much of his life speaking to children in school about the experience. And he served in the Army during the Korean War. He was, I don't know why, but he ended up stationed in Germany where they could use his languages. And finally, Joe, my husband, is named for Private Joseph Philip Cusker. Who died in the war.
So my dad, at 17, forged his parents' signature in order for him to join the military and be in service. And his career followed a very long path of 42 years. And he became the base commander in Niagara Falls. And the amazing thing to me is that every day he would wake up, he'd be whistling and smiling and just wanted to be in service, however that service was. He was a Mustang. He came up through the ranks, he did tanks, he did everything, and ended up with helicopter and fixed wing. They called it the Beaver. It was the L-19. But anyways, I never saw my dad cry except when my mother passed away. And the day that he had to retire, he cried. And then they unretired him, brought him back, and asked him to stay as the commander until they found the right replacement. But he always told me God was his co-pilot. And after he retired permanently, like a month later, he ended up dying in a helicopter crash. But 42 years of loving service to humanity.
My dad was in the Army, and he was an incipient pacifist, and somehow he managed to get, he said, a desk job, so he wasn't a participant in action. He never talked, he never described anything. I do know that he was in Japan, Australia, where he married my mother, and New Guinea. And at his memorial service, he came out of the service, he was fine, he was a college professor for decades and decades. At his memorial service, I found out from my aunts what the desk job was. He was a code breaker. So that's why he never said anything about any of it. And when he came home, he said, I want a religion that is dedicated to peace. And so he joined the Quakers, and then he found the Unitarians. So when I was a child, I went to both Quaker and Unitarian services. So that's about my father. I have a cousin who I haven't kept up with over the years, but at the memorial service for my father, he showed me 5 Purple Hearts in a case. I don't know any of the stories. I wish I did.
I'll be really brief. My daughter Helena died 3 years ago. She was in the Air Force for 25 years and served in 5 different countries and was a devoted Air Force Master Sergeant. And she died of a heart attack 3 years ago. So I miss her very much. And she missed this church because she loved this church. And she said one of the worst things about being stationed in South Korea or Turkey or the various places was that she didn't have the UU church on Sundays. So.
My first husband, David, was in the Vietnam War. Unfortunately, he was right in Agent Orange and suffered greatly from that. Wonderful, talented, wonderful man who needs to be remembered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had 3 uncles that served, and I can remember them coming home and going to the train station and picking them up. One was a medic, and one was a pilot. And the war is really very, very familiar to me, maybe because I'm one of the oldest people here. But it's very sad that we have to continue it. I'm a peace-loving person.
Thank you all for your heartfelt stories, memories. Thank you for your generosity in sharing them. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names in thanksgiving and in anguish, bless the poets and those who mourn. Send peace for the soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above graves far from home. Breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears while the dead sing no more, never again. Remember me. For the wounded ones and those who received them back, let there be someone ready when the memories come, when the scars pull and the buried metal moves, and forgiveness for those of us who were not there for our ignorance. And in us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on our stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain. And with our bare hands, out of full hearts, with all our intelligence, let us create the peace. Hay tantísimas fronteras que dividen a la gente, pero por cada frontera existe también un puente. There's so many borders that divide people, but for every border, there's also a bridge.
We extinguish
This flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Invitation to connect. As our service, wonderful service, draws to an end, our service to the world is ready to begin. Let me tell you about some of the opportunities to connect and serve in the days to come. Sunday, June 11th, will be our annual Flower Communion, a distinctly Unitarian Universalist rite celebrating the gathered community. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Flower Communion. Plan to attend and bring a flower to be part of the beautiful bouquet we will create. But if you forget flowers, there will be some here you can use. There will be a picnic that day, and we will be dedicating our sign, the new sign that you see out on the road there that's so wonderful and miraculous. Thank you, sign committee and all who donated. So that all happens on June 11th. UU singer and songwriter Jim Scott will be with us over Father's Day weekend with a concert on Saturday night and special worship service on Sunday. This is an excellent opportunity to invite family or friends to experience some of the magic of UU Amherst. And if you haven't seen Jim Scott, it's really a treat. He has written some of the hymns in our hymnal, and you will recognize them. Linda Grote will talk about connections.
Hi, everybody. I'm here just to say again our announcement about the new Connections team merging with the Faith Development. So Connections is now unified with Connections and Faith Development under one name, with myself, Linda Grote, leading, and Lori Kisnicki. And can you wave, Lori? Hi, everybody. That's Lori back there. She's assisting. We have a brand new mission statement that we've been working hard on. It's to intentionally develop a welcoming and inclusive community where all ages can explore a personal path to spirituality and to provide opportunities that nourish deep connections, individual growth, and wholeness. Our top focus areas are to welcome newcomers quickly and warmly and quickly, connect them to meaningful relationships and interests. 2, to develop programming and activities for youth while their parents are in service. And 3, to increase membership both on the Connections team and in the congregation. Making connections for all ages and stages is a vital ministry that's core to the growth of UU Amherst, and there are many ways to help. So stay tuned for more information on Connections as we're under construction, and consider how you can help as well as be enriched. So you can email me or text me or call me or just talk to me at coffee hour if you're interested in joining Connections. And as I said last week, thank you again to Marge Marcial, who helped us design and lead activities with the youth for the last several months. We are grateful and appreciative of everything you have done. So after service today, I actually brought some tools, and I'm going to go out to the garden and turn some dirt over and try to see if I can get rid of some of the weeds. I don't even know what it's going to look like, but if anybody wants to join me after coffee hour, I'm going to hang out there for a little bit. That's one thing. And then next week, I'm going to coordinate an activity for the kids during the service. So they'll start in the service, and we'll go out reading a book and doing a little activity, and then we'll come back into the service for announcements. At the picnic next on the 11th, we'd like to have some fun. So if anybody wants to bring any outdoor things, you have outdoor games. I think I'm going to bring a couple frisbees. If anyone has pickleball rackets or balls and they want to bring them, people can play in the parking lot. I think we'll bring some basketballs, bubbles, or beach volleyball. Anybody wants to contribute to any of those things, feel free to let me know. And last but not least, I have a greeter sign up for the next 3 months, which is June, July, and August. And it actually will be living on Google Docs. So anyone that's Google connected can get a link if you just let me know your email. But anybody that's hard copy needing, please feel free. I'm going to have it out at coffee hour. You can sign up on the hard copy, and I will enter it into Google Docs. So hopefully that will cover everybody's issues. So thank you so much for letting me spread some joy. Bye-bye.
And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't invite you to participate in supporting the mission and ministry of UU Church Amherst with your financial gifts. You'll find a green basket at the back of the chapel to receive your contributions, or you can give online by going to our website, uuamherst.org, and clicking on the giving link, or text your gift to the number on the screen. I text my gift. It's so easy. I usually do it at the very end when they're singing and text it. It's just, try it. It's great. Your gifts and participation are important because we pick fruit from trees we did not plant. We drink water from wells we did not dig. This is as it should be, so long as we dig and plant for those who come after us. Your generous giving support, it supports the work of this congregation.
Now I invite you to rise and bow to your spirit as we sing together our closing blessing and remain standing for a short benediction. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. May the road rise up to greet you as you leave your past behind. I will think about you gently, and I'll hold
look at one another. Travel light and travel easy till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend.
If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. And if you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace.